Corrections. Okay. The BBC tweeted somebody. I think they tweeted Cody. No, not Big Black Cock. That's the BBC.
The news.
It's a porn abbrev.
Yeah. We were all thinking it.
Yeah. Who among us heard BBC and didn't think Big Black Cock?
Come on. Let's be honest. Yeah.
It's a standard.
We're all people. Let's move on.
The Posh is not an acronym. That's another bullshit thing. Like everything you hear as an acronym, it's all bullshit. I should have known better. Because it was British, I fell for it. I perpetuated the thing. Our hopefully new friends, maybe if they come on the show, but if they listen to last week's episode, they probably won't come. They'll be like,
I think they're coming.
I think they emailed the ladies I was referring to for the Red-Handed podcast, so maybe they'll come. But then I thought, well, let's listen to what they probably listened to. Whoa! I heard from them, and they speak with such dignified grace and poise that I just kind of swallowed it and repeated it. That POSH was an acronym for Port Out, Starboard Home. No, it's not. It's a myth in the great kingdom, and it's like I remember my dad telling me that fuck stood for use of carnal knowledge.
Yeah.
It's just no. It's
the truest
There's only
thing.
2 words that are actually acronyms. It's laser and scuba. Everything else is everything else is an urban legend. There's nothing. Hey, did you know nothing's an acronym? It stands for non-official
thing.
Tactical harmony involving no.
That's what sucks.
I like snafu and foobar though.
Yeah, those are real.
Okay, foobar and snafu
No,
are
but
real.
those are also just acronyms and not words. But that's what sucks about linguistics is that obviously in history there's like conflicting theories and stuff, but there's generally prevailing opinions. But in linguistics is like, well, the top 5 things that could be the words are these, and they're all like, oh, it could be this guy's shoe fell off and it became the word, or it could be it used to be logos, which meant this guy's shoe that fell off, and it's just like really weird because they're all like treated as like the real one, but it's like, well, it's probably not even any of these, really.
Yeah, from what we really know of language, what we know is that what would you call it? The refraction, I don't know if that's what you'd call it. Like, what is light going through glass? Is that refraction?
Diffraction?
Whatever the medium of time as language moves forward, it causes so much chaos in ratio to linear logical evolution of words. Like, oh, did you know? I can't even riff an example. I'll just confuse and embarrass. But it just, the real stuff that we do know about, it only serves to show you that that the logic is not linear at all in terms of how language develops. I'll riff probably a really embarrassing example because it probably, but just the idea that Bill is an abbreviation for William. I just think, and every example that's not a guy's name, like within our language, like how, yoke became joke, became toke, became bloke. Like there is no logic to it. None of that is real. Yoke never became joke. There's no, so that suggests that the things that we have theories about are probably wrong.
Yeah, they're probably just the best stories that kept persisting.
Yeah.
There's a series, I think it's by, is it Earl Funk from Funkin' Wagnalls?
It is.
I don't know if I'm getting the name right, if it's Earl or not. There's 4 books, I think, that are about etymology of idioms. Like, why do we say bury the hatchet? Why do we say break a leg? Why do we, like all these things? And most of them are like, the jury's still out on that one. We think it's because of this, but here's the first time it was ever used in print. And I can't get enough of that because there's a big debate about why it's break a leg.
Right.
And I love that because we really don't know.
I grew up with people saying like, oh, it's the opposite of good luck because you're not supposed to experience superstitions in the theater. They're saying have the opposite of a great show so you have a good show. But then you told me, no, it's like you break a leg when you bow. So they're like, and you would bow if they were applauding at all.
It's saying make it to the end, like get to the bows.
Survive.
Yeah.
Be more interesting than the bear stabbing down the street.
Hard to beat.
To the point where you have to actually do something at the end of your play.
Reading these books because they're so old, I think I used one like, episode 7 of Harmontown where I said, poor as Job's turkey. Like,
damn.
Job's turkey you know that turkey was broke because Job lost everything. And if he had a turkey,
Job's most prized family members were fodder for a jealous God. Right. So of course his turkey probably was pretty stringy.
Yeah.
Pretty untended to.
And I think that Mr. Funk said that the first time in print is that Job's turkey was so poor it only had one leg, no feathers, and had to lean against a fence to stand up. That's a broke turkey.
Why is Mr. Funk explaining what the actual?
He's the idiom man.
He's the guy that writes the book that says, well, why do we say horse feathers? Why do we say heavens to Betsy?
Right, so he's just being colorful, imagining Job's turkey?
He's saying, here's the first evidence of this in print, of being poor as Job's turkey, where he had no feathers, one leg, and had to lean against a fence to stand up.
Who...
Job's turkey.
Funk is referring to the first printed use of the phrase poor as Job's turkey, right?
Yes, correct.
So that person who used the phrase was explaining Job's turkey?
Yes. He was saying, He was letting you know that this is the first time anyone's ever.
I know what he's doing. Who the fuck is explaining what? Like, I would have assumed that the person that coined it was just coining it as an idiom,
right?
Not writing an essay about how ill taken care of.
Let me tell you about Job's boat.
Let's say
this thing was small.
If you were reading a newspaper in 1745. And somebody referred to somebody being poor as Job's turkey.
Right.
You would just let that pass by, and that sounds like a broke ass turkey.
I feel like we're having two different conversations here.
Yeah.
Who said Job? Who went into this lengthy description of the turkey, though?
Mystery person.
I think Earl Funk says that the first guy that ever used it said poor as Job's turkey, comma, who was
so when you coin an idiom, you have to actually show your math. You have to be like,
this is new spectacle.
This is colder than a witch's tit, comma, semicolon.
A very cold
witch tits. The flesh being furthest from the body of an already unaccommodating creature. Equally unused as witches are famously non-maternal. You just keep, and then if it catches, if your explanation is good, the peer review in the New England Journal of Idioms goes like,
Earl Funk comes in.
Colder than a witch's tit. It scans.
I'll write it down.
Did you read Per Richard's Almanac? He'll explain what I'm talking about. Trust me, witch's tits, freezing. I don't have to explain it. Look it up.
It's in the book.
Do the medieval equivalent of Googling it.
You know cold enough to freeze the balls off a brass monkey?
Oh, yeah.
Freeze the balls off a brass monkey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer
knows.
Oh, we all do.
But you're saying that beyond that just being a clever way of saying it's cold, like there's actually some logic to that?
Yeah.
Like a brass monkey is typically hot?
Oh, yeah. Super hot.
Because they're more conductive?
Because they're way more... No, they're just not kept cold enough to be frozen the balls off of.
Because brass...
It's on a sailing ship where there's cannonballs and there's a rack that you keep the cannonballs in.
In a pyramid.
And if it's cold enough... The cannonballs in
freeze
the rack,
together.
like in a pyramid fashion, will expand and crack and fly all over the deck.
Oh, okay.
So it's so cold it froze the balls off the brass monkey, and for some reason,
where's the monkey?
That's what it's the pyramid of balls.
The monkey is the rack of where they.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was called.
No one
But there is some debate about this. We don't know if that's actually why we say that.
Because all linguist history is just made up.
Yeah.
It's weird.
I always assume it's like, well, what time is it? Half past the monkey's ass, quarter to his balls. Like, I always just assume that a lot of our language is just made up by kids who are like finding out how to say stuff. They're kind of like, there was a guy on MSNBC that was a linguist that was talking about Donald Trump's use of language. And he was like, yeah, it's a surprisingly juvenile use of language for a senior citizen. And that's sort of like part of his, like, appeal to people because it's like he talks not only the way that we start talking when we're learning to talk, but he also talks the way our species talked when it was learning to talk and before it learned to speak. speaking and talking being two different things, but him being like a pioneer politician who's just like kind of like a Duncan Trussell said something terrifying at one point about Trump, which was like, I think he's just the first of a new breed of like politicians who are going to be like your local town's carpet king, you know, like you're not going to. The question is he doing a bit or not is never going to matter anymore. It's going to be like part of the job, part of the electability. You won't be able to be elected by having poise. That would be a silly person's gambit when you can just stick out, and then only a wise person would make an ass of themselves while running for president, and et cetera, et cetera. It's sort of like if you can forecast the way. I think that's a very optimistic prediction because it sort of says that our country's going to be around long enough that like we're going to keep having regular elections every 40 years of these.
We're Venezuela now.